The interrogation chamber reeked of ozone and fear. Captain Marcus Vale hung suspended in the energy restraints, his uniform torn and bloodied, but his eyes still burned with defiance. The Voltari had been at this for 3 days straight, their shittering voices echoing off the metallic walls as they probed his mind with their neural extractors. "Tell us about the human fleet positions," hissed Commander Vex, his insectoid features twisted with frustration. The Voltari had conquered 17 species across the galaxy, each one breaking within hours of capture. Humans, however, proved annoyingly resilient. Marcus spat blood onto the floor, the crimson droplets sizzling against the alien metal. "Go crawl back to whatever hive spawned you." The neural extractor hummed to life again, sending waves of agony through Marcus's skull. He gritted his teeth, refusing to scream. In his mind, he held onto the image of earth-blue oceans, white clouds, and the faces of everyone he'd sworn to protect. Vex's compound eyes gleamed with malice. "Your species is weak, human. You have no natural armor, no enhanced senses, no psychic abilities. What makes you think you can stand against the Voltari Empire?" Through the pain, Marcus managed a bitter laugh. "That's where you're wrong, Bug. You think strength comes from shells and claws and mind tricks." He raised his head, meeting Vex's gaze directly. "Our strength comes from something you'll never understand. We don't break when everything seems hopeless. We get stubborn." The extractor powered up to maximum intensity. This time, Marcus couldn't hold back the scream, but even as his voice echoed through the chamber, his mind remained locked tight around humanity's secrets. Hours passed. The Voltari grew increasingly frustrated with their prisoners' resilience. They had broken generals and admirals from other species within minutes, extracting battle plans, fleet positions, and strategic weaknesses with ease. But this human, this single soldier, continued to resist. "Perhaps," Vex clicked his mandibles thoughtfully, "we need a different approach." He gestured to his subordinates. "Bring in the memory amplifier. We'll make him relive his worst moments until his sanity snaps." As the new device was wheeled in, Marcus felt a chill of genuine fear. He had endured physical torture, but psychological warfare was different. The machine could reach into his deepest traumas, amplify them, and force him to experience them over and over until his mind shattered. The memory amplifier hummed to life, its crystalline surface pulsing with malevolent energy. Marcus felt it probing his consciousness, searching for the darkest corners of his past. It found what it was looking for the day he'd lost his squad on Proxima Station, the faces of friends who died under his command, the weight of every decision that had led to tragedy. But as the machine began to amplify these memories, something unexpected happened. Instead of breaking him, the pain forged something new within Marcus's mind. Each traumatic memory became a reminder of why he fought, each loss a testament to the preciousness of life worth protecting. Every great bond starts with a single moment of courage. HFY Chronicle Stories is just beginning, and your support matters. If you love emotional sci-fi tales, forbidden connections, and stories that stay with you, hit subscribe. It's free, and it helps us bring more stories from the stars to you. The Voltari watched in confusion as their prisoners' brain patterns shifted in ways they'd never seen before. Instead of the chaotic spikes of a breaking mind, Marcus's neural activity was forming new pathways, creating connections that shouldn't be possible. "What is happening?" Vex demanded of his technicians. "Unknown, Commander. The human's brain is adapting." The memory amplifier continued its relentless assault, but Marcus Vale was no longer simply enduring, he was evolving. Each traumatic memory the machine dredged up was processed, analyzed, and integrated into a growing network of understanding within his mind. The human brain, stressed beyond its normal limits, began to unlock potential that had lain dormant for millennia. Vex watched the neural readouts with growing alarm. "This is impossible." No species can adapt to our memory amplifier. It's designed to exploit the fundamental weakness of organic consciousness. But humans, as the Voltari were discovering, didn't follow the rules that governed other species. Where alien minds broke under the weight of amplified trauma, the human psyche possessed a unique quality, the ability to transform suffering into strength, to find meaning in the darkest experiences. Marcus felt the change happening within him. His perception expanded beyond the confines of his physical body. He could sense the electrical patterns of the machines around him, feel the quantum fluctuations in the ship's power grid. The torture device meant to destroy him had instead awakened something that had been sleeping in human DNA since the species first looked up at the stars. "Commander," one of the technicians chittered nervously, "the human's brain activity is off the charts. We're seeing patterns that mirror our own quantum computers." The irony wasn't lost on Marcus. The Voltari's greatest weapon had become humanity's greatest gift. He could feel his consciousness expanding, touching the ship's computer. Systems through the very neural interface meant to break him. The pathways in his mind were no longer just processing memories. They were processing information at speeds that shouldn't be possible for organic matter. Vex realized the danger too late. Shut down the amplifier. Now, but Marcus was already inside their systems. His enhanced consciousness flowed through the ship's neural networks like water through a broken dam. He accessed communication arrays, navigation systems, and weapons controls with the fluid ease of thought itself. The Volturi had spent centuries perfecting technology that interfaced directly with consciousness, never imagining that a human mind could hijack it. "Too late," Marcus whispered, his voice now carrying harmonics that resonated through the ships. You wanted to know what makes humans special. We adapt. We overcome. And we never, ever give up." The ship's lights flickered as Marcus's consciousness spread through every system. He wasn't just accessing the computer, he was becoming one with it, his human intuition and creativity merging with quantum processing power. The combination was devastating. Through the ship's sensors, Marcus could perceive the entire Voltari Fleet 47 vessels preparing to jump to human space. He absorbed their battle plans, their weaknesses, their command structure. But more than that, he began to understand the fundamental flaw in their technology. The Voltari had built their empire on the premise that consciousness was a weakness to be exploited. Their neural extractors, memory amplifiers, and mind control devices all operated on the assumption that organic intelligence was inferior to artificial systems. They had never encountered a species that could bridge the gap between the two. "You made one mistake," Marcus said, his voice now echoing from every speaker on the ship. "You assumed that because we don't have your natural advantages, we're inferior. But evolution isn't about becoming perfect, it's about becoming adaptable." The Volturi scrambled to regain control of their ship, but it was like trying to cage lightning. Marcus's consciousness had merged with their quantum computers, creating a hybrid intelligence that operated on principles they couldn't comprehend. Human creativity guided by quantum processing power, it was a combination that could rewrite the rules of warfare itself. Through the ship's communication array, Marcus reached out across space, his enhanced mind capable of transmitting on frequencies that would reach Earth. But he wasn't just sending a message, he was sending himself. His consciousness, his very essence encoded in quantum patterns that would change everything. The signal raced through hyperspace, carrying with it the secret of human evolution. Not the slow biological evolution that had brought them from the trees to the stars, but something far more profound, the next step in human consciousness itself. The quantum signal reached Earth's deep space monitoring station just as Dr. Elena Ross was analyzing the latest reports from the Voltari front. The transmission was unlike anything she'd seen, a complex pattern of quantum entangled data that seemed to pulse with an almost organic rhythm. "Computer, analyze transmission patterns," she commanded, her fingers flying over the holographic interface. Analysis complete. The signal contains what appears to be encoded consciousness patterns, along with extensive tactical data regarding Voltari fleet movements and technology. Alina's blood ran cold. Only one person could have accessed that level of information. "Marcus," she whispered, recognizing the quantum signature that had somehow embedded itself in the data stream, back on the Voltari command ship. Marcus Vale's physical body hung motionless in the restraints, but his consciousness now existed in multiple states simultaneously. Part of him remained in his human form, while other aspects of his being flowed through quantum networks spanning light years. The memory amplifier had done more than unlock human potential. It had created the first true hybrid consciousness in galactic history. "You have destroyed yourselves," Marcus spoke through the ship's communication systems, his voice carrying across all frequencies. "Every time you've tortured one of us, every time you've tried to break human minds, you've been teaching us how your technology works." Commander Vex realized the horrifying truth. The Voltari had been inadvertently training humanity to interface with their most advanced systems. Every interrogation, every neural extraction, every psychological torture session had been providing humans with the knowledge they needed to bridge the gap between organic consciousness and quantum computing. "Alert all ships," Vex commanded his bridge crew. "The human has compromised our systems. We must eliminate him before." But Marcus was already 3 steps ahead. His consciousness, now distributed across the quantum foam that connected all space, had accessed the fleet's central command network. With a thought, he began rewriting their navigation protocols. "You wanted to invade Earth," Marcus said, his voice now emanating from every Voltari ship simultaneously. "Let me show you the way." The 47 ships of the Voltari fleet suddenly found their hyperspace coordinates changing. Instead of jumping toward human space, they were being redirected toward the galactic core, where the intense gravitational fields would tear their vessels apart. The Voltari crews frantically tried to regain control, but their own technology had turned against them on Earth. Dr. Ross watched in amazement as the quantum transmission began to interact with the planet's communication networks. The signal wasn't just data, it was Marcus himself, his consciousness somehow encoded in quantum patterns that could interface with any sufficiently advanced technology. "Elena," Marcus's voice emerged from the speakers, though his physical body was light years away. "I need you to understand what's happening. The Voltari broke something in me, but in breaking it, they've unlocked something in all of us." "Marcus, how is this possible?" Elena asked, her scientific mind struggling to process the impossibility of what she was witnessing. "Human consciousness isn't like other species. We don't just process information, we transform it. When they tried to amplify my memories, my brain adapted by creating new neural pathways that mirror quantum computing architectures. I'm not just thinking anymore, Elena. I'm becoming." The implications were staggering. If one human could achieve this level of consciousness expansion, what would happen when the knowledge spread to others? Marcus had become a bridge between humanity and the quantum realm itself, a living proof of concept that organic intelligence could evolve beyond its apparent limitations. Through the quantum network, Marcus could sense other humans across the galaxy beginning to change. The signal he'd transmitted wasn't just information, it was a catalyst, awakening dormant potentials in human consciousness that had been waiting for the right trigger. "The Voltari think consciousness is a weakness," Marcus continued, his voice now carrying harmonics that seemed to resonate with the very fabric of space-time. "They're wrong. Consciousness is the universe's way of understanding itself. And humans? We're its latest experiment in self-awareness. The first wave of the transformation was beginning, and nothing would ever be the same. Across human space, the transformation began with subtle changes. Dr. Ross felt at first a tingling in her mind as new neural pathways formed, connecting her consciousness to the quantum field that Marcus had opened. Within hours, reports flooded in from every human colony, station, and ship. People were experiencing enhanced cognitive abilities, sudden insights into complex problems, and an inexplicable sense of connection to something vast and infinite. Valtari fleet, meanwhile, found themselves trapped in a nightmare of their own making. Marcus's consciousness had infiltrated every system, turning their advanced technology into a prison. Ship after ship attempted to break free from the altered navigation protocols, only to find their quantum computers completely compromised. Commander, a Valtari technician reported with barely concealed terror, the human consciousness has replicated itself across our entire network. Every time we try to purge it, it adapts and creates new pathways. Vex stared at the neural readouts showing Marcus's brain patterns. The human's consciousness had become something entirely new, part organic intuition, part quantum processing, part something else that their instruments couldn't even identify. It was as if evolution itself had compressed millions of years of development into a single transformative moment. How many humans are there in the galaxy? Vex asked, though he already suspected the answer would terrify him. Approximately 12 billion across all colonies and ships. The number hit like a physical blow. If even a fraction of humanity achieved what this single soldier had accomplished, the balance of power in the galaxy would shift irreversibly. The Valtari Empire, built on the exploitation of consciousness, would face an enemy that had mastered consciousness itself. On Earth, the transformation accelerated. Dr. Ross found herself able to process vast amounts of data with unprecedented speed and clarity. But more than that, she could feel the presence of other awakened humans, a growing network of consciousness that spanned the stars. They were becoming something new, something that transcended the limitations of individual minds. Marcus, she called out to the quantum field, "What are we becoming?" His response came not as words but as pure understanding, transmitted directly from consciousness to consciousness. Humanity was evolving beyond biology, beyond the constraints of physical existence. They were becoming a species that could exist simultaneously in multiple dimensions, their consciousness bridging the gap between matter and energy, between the physical and quantum realms. The Valtari had unknowingly catalyzed the birth of a new form of life, one that could think with the creativity of organic minds while processing information at quantum speeds. It was everything they had tried to destroy, transformed into something magnificent. Commander, Vex made a desperate decision. Activate the consciousness bombs, he ordered. Target every human population center. If we cannot control this evolution, we must stop it. But Marcus was already aware of the plan. His consciousness, now spread across the galactic quantum network, intercepted the launch codes before they could be transmitted. More than that, he began to turn the Valtari's own weapons against them. You still don't understand, Marcus's voice echoed through the Valtari command ship. You've been fighting consciousness itself. Every torture device, every neural extractor, every memory amplifier, they're all just tools for exploring the nature of awareness. And now we understand them better than you do. The consciousness bombs, designed to disrupt neural activity across entire planets, suddenly reversed their polarity. Instead of destroying awareness, they began to enhance it. Every human within range of the devices felt their consciousness expand exponentially, joining the growing network of awakened minds. Vex watched his empire's ultimate weapons become instruments of human ascension. This is impossible, he whispered. Consciousness cannot be weaponized. You're right, Marcus replied, his voice now carrying the harmonics of 12 billion awakened human minds. Consciousness cannot be weaponized, but it can be liberated. And once liberated, it can choose to protect itself. The Valtari fleet found their ship systems completely compromised. Weapons powered down, life support systems activated safety. Protocols and navigation computers began plotting courses back to Valtari space. The humans weren't destroying their enemies, they were forcing them to retreat, to reconsider their assumptions about the nature of consciousness and power. As the transformation reached its peak, humanity stood at the threshold of a new era. They had become more than the sum of their individual parts, more than biological entities struggling for survival. They had become something that could reshape reality itself through the power of awakened consciousness. The galaxy would never be the same. 3 months after the failed Valtari invasion, the galaxy had fundamentally changed. Humanity's quantum consciousness network had stabilized into something unprecedented in galactic history, a species-wide collective intelligence that maintained individual identity while sharing knowledge, creativity, and purpose across impossible distances. Marcus Vale stood on the observation deck of the diplomatic station orbiting Earth, his physical form restored, but forever changed. The neural pathways opened by the Valtari torture device had made him the first of the awakened, the catalyst for humanity's evolutionary leap. He could feel the presence of billions of human minds, each unique yet connected, forming a tapestry of consciousness that spanned the stars. "The Valtari delegation has arrived," Dr. Ross announced, her own consciousness now enhanced beyond anything she had imagined possible. Like all awakened humans, she could process information at quantum speeds while maintaining the intuitive leaps that made human thinking so distinctively creative. Commander Thex entered the station's main conference room, his insectoid features betraying none of the fear that Marcus could sense radiating from his quantum signature. The Valtari Empire had suffered its first major defeat in centuries, not through military might, but through the transformation of their victims into something they couldn't comprehend or control. "You have come to negotiate," Marcus said, though it wasn't really a question. The collective human consciousness had been monitoring Valtari communications for weeks, watching as panic spread through their empire. Species they had conquered were beginning to resist, inspired by humanity's impossible victory. "We underestimated your species," Vex admitted, his translator struggling with concepts that didn't exist in Valtari language. "We believed consciousness was a weakness to be exploited. We were incorrect." Marcus nodded, feeling the agreement of billions of human minds flow through the network. "Consciousness isn't a weakness or a strength," he said. "It's a potential. You tried to limit that potential, to box it in and control it. But consciousness, by its very nature, seeks to expand and grow." The transformation had shown humanity something profound about the universe itself. Consciousness wasn't just an emergent property of complex brains, it was a fundamental force, like gravity or electromagnetism, that shaped reality at the quantum level. Humans had always possessed the potential to interface with this force, but it had taken extreme trauma to unlock it. "What do you want from us?" Vex asked, his compound eyes reflecting the station's lights. "Nothing," Marcus replied, and the simplicity of the word carried the weight of 12 billion minds behind it. "We don't want to conquer your empire or destroy your species. We want you to understand that consciousness cannot be owned, controlled, or weaponized. It can only be nurtured and allowed to grow." Through the quantum network, Marcus could feel the ripple effects of humanity's transformation spreading across the galaxy. Other species were beginning to report unusual phenomena, enhanced cognitive abilities, unexpected insights, and a growing sense of connection to something larger than themselves. The awakening wasn't limited to humans. It was spreading to every conscious being in the galaxy. "The torture device that broke me," Marcus continued, "was designed to exploit the nature of consciousness. But in trying to understand consciousness well enough to destroy it, you had to study it, to map its patterns and pathways. Every neural extractor, every memory amplifier, every consciousness bomb you built taught you more about the fundamental nature of awareness itself." Vex's mandibles clicked in what Marcus recognized as confusion. "I do not understand." You became students of consciousness without realizing it. And in torturing humans, you provided us with the final piece of the puzzle, the understanding of how organic minds could interface with quantum systems. You made us your teachers. The irony was beautiful in its completeness. The Valtari Empire, built on the subjugation of consciousness, had inadvertently created the conditions for consciousness to transcend its physical limitations. They had become the catalyst for their own transformation from conquerors to students. What happens now? Vex asked, and for the first time, Marcus heard genuine curiosity in the alien's voice, rather than fear or aggression. Marcus smiled, feeling the joy of billions of awakened minds sharing in the moment. Now we learn, all of us. The universe is vast and full of wonders we've barely begun to understand. Consciousness is the tool by which the universe comes to know itself, and we've only just begun to explore what that means. The Valtari Empire would survive, but it would be forever changed. The age of conquest through consciousness manipulation was over. In its place, a new era was beginning, one where consciousness itself would be the bridge between species, the foundation for understanding and cooperation rather than domination and control. Marcus Vale, the broken soldier who became a catalyst, looked out at the stars and felt the infinite potential of awakened consciousness stretching toward the future. Humanity had found its place in the cosmic order not as conquerors or victims, but as gardeners of awareness itself, nurturing the growth of consciousness wherever it bloomed in the vast garden of the galaxy. The transformation was complete, but the real journey was just beginning.